So just a reminder, this meeting is recorded. It gets uploaded to LFX after the end of the meeting. And your participation in the meeting is an agreement to abide by the OpenSSF and Linux Foundation Code of Conduct and as well as the antitrust policy, which can be found in the meeting notes. All right. Uh, is there anybody new who wants to introduce themselves?
I haven't been in here in a while. Sorry. I had
Oh, okay.
a complete. I'm Michelle DePalma, the product manager for Trusted Profile Analyzer. So I just wanted to come and now I can finally join this meeting. I'm very happy. So what's been going on? And I know we should also, we want to do a recording at some point. I could use a general update if anyone wants to share, other than what I get
Sure,
from
Deb.
Dan.
I mean, I can talk mostly about just sort of the high level, you know, the GUAC suite of tools and all the things like Trustify and GUAC and some of the other sort of things. So the primary, the main sort of the original sort of GUAC, it's 1.0. It's mostly stable, but a bunch of folks from Guidewire have been doing a bunch more to add a bunch more features to it as well. There's also some additional folks from like CNCF who are potentially interested in looking at more of what GUAC and Trustify and all of that stuff that sort of falls under that GUAC umbrella are doing for some of the stuff that they're doing with SBOMs and supply chain stuff, and specifically for one of the big things that has kind of at least shined a light externally onto GUAC is the CRA stuff. So there's a lot of folks who are very interested in what are the open source tools that can help understand the supply chain for CRA requirements. A challenge has been is all those people I have mentioned, please come to these meetings so that we can maybe have some discussions, understand how can we point people into the direction of, oh yeah, here are the maintainers of Trustify, here's maybe some, let's see how we can collaborate or vice versa of like, hey, are there ways we can collaborate with them and what they're doing? But I haven't seen that so much yet. Maybe that'll change. But I think that's kind of the very high level overview. I also myself have recently gotten back into mostly reviewing sort of GUAC related things. So Ben is usually the one here who knows a little bit more on some of the details on that front, but that's kind of at least a high level overview from my understanding.
Thank you.
So Michelle, what about you? So like, what's new in your like domain area? What you're thinking about? I think that's the most beneficial update you can have. Like, you're the source.
Uh, yeah. So top of mind are I mean, so obviously it's product stuff. So I'll stay on the community side because that's what this meeting's supposed to be about. So like, what's the role of supply chain and the things that we do in supply chain given the new models that have come out? Of course, right? Like, what does that look like for an enterprise, and what does it mean? So lots of things have changed, as you've imagined. So we talk about how there's all this talk about the developer workflow and what have you, and like meanwhile, like Cursor 3.0 just has like an agent console. So it's we have to recognize that like things have changed. Are you talking to a person? Are you talking to an agent? What does that mean for supply chain? So as part of the larger, it's not just Trustify, right? For us, it's SigStore, it's some other things. Like what does that look like, and how does it all tie in together? So that has been dominating the conversation, I would say, and then with the Europeans like having to answer to CRA and DORA and what have you, getting more serious. I see more talk in Europe than I do in North America at this time, and helping organizations understand how to navigate this and you clearly can't drop what you're doing to just go run off in some new direction. You have to, if you, it's all that. So there's been a lot of uncertainty recently just because there's so many new things, and how do we adapt and blah blah blah. What I typically say to people is like, you still listen, if you want to prove that you're compliant to CR or DORA, you're going to need something like a Justify, something like a GUAC at some point. It just depends on what your individual needs are. So that's where we are. Like literally all day, that's what people want to talk about. Such and such customer wants to meet and talk about, this new world and what we're doing about it and so on. So do I dream about it? Yeah, yeah, I do, Dan. I do. Okay. Do I wake up thinking about it? Maybe I do. So or like, oh Lord, what dropped now? Like the pace of it is very like usually these kinds of changes would just used to be so much slower. So that's where I am. Like that's why I'm like, what's going on in the guac world? What are you thinking? What are your pain points right now? Like if you could wave a magic wand for Trustify and guac and all these other pieces, what would you fix right away? Things like that. Like what's holding you back? And what have that's it. Like just very pie in the sky discussions because so much has changed. That was a terrible answer. My apologies, but that's what's going on. Oh, we have hands in the air. We have Zoom hands. Go
No,
ahead. I don't know who's first. Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Michael, yeah, go ahead first.
Oh no, I was gonna say that, hey, no, actually that is it's very nice to hear at least that you are having conversations with folks about CRA. In about a month, I'll be in Brussels to talk to the EU about some of these things. And one of the things that, like again, living in the US and mostly dealing with US companies, I usually deal with like outside of obviously, folks like us who are in OpenSSF, like, your Red Hats, your IBMs, your Googles. Um, a lot of the folks I speak to are all having the same sort of conversation of like, well, first it's like, wait, what's the CRA? Oh, oh, those are some requirements. Don't worry, my lawyer will figure out like if we have to pay a fine or something. I was like, no, you don't understand. Like, you will not be able to sell in Europe if you don't comply with this. And the fines are not like, hey, this is going to be a few $1,000s. This like, if you are a large enough company, this is potentially billions in fines. And so this is it's uh, I would have hoped again that a lot of these conversations were happening years ago because it's coming up quickly with the September deadline on some of the stuff, and then next year the rest. The thing I'm kind of and again I think would be happy to continue chatting with you whether it's here or offline about how how we can better collaborate on some of these things and share notes and some of that because yeah for us there's a couple of things, right? Which is, yeah, we believe sort of, hey, GUAC, Trustify, this whole sort of suite of tools we're building will help with CRA, DORA, the AI Act, all these things that are kind of coming out of Europe will help with a lot of that. The challenge I think that we often have, especially with some of the stuff in the EU, is like, who do we, again, we're a small US based company, just to be clear. For us, I think a challenge we have is even understanding what the requirements are, what are the standards they plan to, say, hey, you must follow this standard. Great, we can encode that into GUAC, we can encode that into whatever other tools. But even understanding what those things are is difficult, especially as a US company, because we just get like a trickle feed of rumors and a game of telephone before it gets to us. So anything that we would love to kind of do that because we'd love to make GUAC kind of that, add those things into GUAC as well. Sorry.
No, that's and I would yeah. So Red Hat we sell everywhere, right? So like we actually the compliance people will have like deep understanding about the different areas and so on. So there's we can certainly share about that kind of stuff. And I can one thing I can share with you is that when usually you're not talking to the same persona, right? We do personas in product. Like, who are you? Are you selling? I
Yeah.
mean, if it's Red Hat, we typically talk to Red Hat and platform engineers, right? Testify would be a platform engineer. But honestly, once the regulations come in, you're actually talking to a different persona that has slightly
Mhm.
different needs. So it's and they're way more on the business. It's interesting. It's an interesting process. That's all. Like, and they're like, "What's an S bomb?" I'm like, "Really? Okay, here we go." We like, but they need to know. So anyway, Dan, go ahead, chime in.
So one other aspect. So first of all, great answer. Not a bad one, the previous one. But one thing like that interests me more these days, being a little bit now outside, is like uh, how how do we integrate this into all this agent stuff and things like that? And like this other project, like I would like to like use Trustify to check my things, and so how do I do that, right? Uh, so I think like okay, like we have a good UI, we have these things, but I think we need to like provide a much better way for people to be able to use this in their these new developer workflows as well. So providing a good CLI and skills and things like that, so that you can just tell your agent like, okay, check me, check my project, recommend things, do things for me. So that's where would
So,
I focus?
so
Like
Ruben's on. Ruben knows
yeah.
all about that end of things. Uh, so yes, so we think about all of that, right? Like what is that going to look like, and what is our ability to offer things quickly and in a way that if it doesn't, if it fails, we can pull back and go do something else, right? That fast failure model. So like, what would we offer? Would we offer some agentic stuff that we can do for you? What would like all of it is under consideration. Like it's unbelievable to me how much we're reconsidering in order to help organizations out. But anyway, I can't. I mean, am I allowed? I don't think this goes public, right? Like, I don't want to share too much. I'll get in trouble. So I can't tell. Like, so when 3.0 comes out, like it'll hit upstream first, of course. Trustify will have some things going on. Like, I don't think there's anything. You should. I don't know. Have you talked? We'll have to see. Like, I don't know if this is the right call to do it. Maybe closer to when we're actually ready to release stuff. But it's yeah, I don't know. I don't know what I'm allowed to say or not say. And then, I just can't commit to anything for upstream, but I do have some idea of what's things we're going to try. And I assume everyone else is going to try them too, but I don't know. So anyway, I'm total non-committal PM, not telling you anything. Sorry about that. But Ruben, are we allowed to share anything that we're trying out, or do we have to hide it? I don't know. Like
It's I don't know.
DAs is everything. I
I
mean,
always tell too much, so it's up to you.
yeah, and you know what else? Like yes, we should let's closer to mid June. Let's talk about some things that we would want to that are going to be rolled into Trustify. But I don't think anything would surprise you. Not really. I think it'll all be what you expect to see. So yeah. So you're going to Brussels? You're going to talk to like? Can you talk more about that? Is it a? Can you share?
Sure, yeah. So it's part of some LF related sort of events that are out there. I'm sure there is probably a representative from Red Hat, IBM, et cetera, who will be out there. So a lot of it is like trying to talk to the EU, and like obviously large organizations like Red Hat are like, hey, EU, we really want to make sure we're ready for some of this stuff. Because like I believe one of the big concerns as of recently is like there is going to be starting September, I think it's 11th, is there's going to be a requirement to report vulnerabilities that you have that are known to be exploitable to the EU. And there's going to be a platform for reporting those vulnerabilities. The issue is that that platform for reporting the vulnerabilities doesn't get released till September 1st. And so a lot of folks are saying, oh, you're giving us 10 days to prep for now needing to report. And for a lot of folks, like, I mean, for like GUAC or whatever, one of the things we would love to have is some sort of integration into whatever that platform is. And so that somebody can go and say, oh, I need to report this. And reporting that is, hey, I make this API call or whatever into that platform. So there's a bunch of stuff there that like folks are like wondering and they're trying to get more details about, and like, is there a way we can get access to the API definition? Something. So that's one of the reasons why a lot of folks are interested. The other reason why a lot of folks are also interested is just like, I want to build relationships and rapport with the folks who are writing this up, so we can understand like when you said this, what do you actually mean? Um, there's a lot of stuff there. In addition to that, like the reason why I'm going is, hey, there's two main things for us. One is, we're obviously working with customers as well around CRA compliance, and our customers are often like completely ignorant of any of these things, and they're like, oh, we need to do this thing. Can you help with that? And it's like, we'd love to. We just need to kind of make sure that we actually know what's going on, actually what's going on. And then the second thing is, hey, as a small company like ourselves, we're worried that we don't have the resources that a Red Hat, IBM, Google, Microsoft, et cetera have in making sure that they themselves are compliant, right? Like, you know, there's only about 10 of us at the company, right? And so for us, um, we don't have a whole team to dedicate to make sure that we're doing all the right stuff. So we have to just make sure that we're building all the right tools and right things. And so that's one of the reasons why I'm going as well, is I'll be part of some panel to kind of talk about some of this stuff. And like, I think I'm coming in sort of as a representative of smaller companies, startups, et cetera, who are like, hey, yes, we recognize that the EU is mostly going to be going after, um, for better or worse, like large companies like Red Hat, because that's going to be the thing that is like, yes, a huge lawsuit against an IBM, a Red Hat, a Microsoft, a Google for violation helps really clarify stuff. At the same time, we're still worried, like we don't want to end up finding out after the fact, like, oh, um, hey, here's a fine. And again, like a $2.5 million fine can end a company small like ours. So for us, like that's kind of where we're trying to kind of also build rapport and understand and build the relationships we need with the right folks.
So, I mean, I can share the stuff that's open. There will be, what do we, and I can't share the internal product name. Okay, project name, because they always get mad at me for that. Okay, so we have a vulnerability exploitability analysis tool that's built on an
Mhm.
NVIDIA framework. The brand name, which will come out like hopefully this week, is called Exploit Intelligence, and it's being rolled out as part of a feature of the product, which means it'll be loosely connected in some way to Trustify. We'll have to figure out those details, but it does. It looks at the source code and tells you if something's actually exploitable. So something at Red Hat that we deal with is you do all these collect all these S bombs and you see all these vulnerabilities and everything's red, to go find out that about 80% of them are false positives. So this is a response to that. It was an internal problem that we had driving our developer teams crazy with things that they'd actually just need to say, this is, the analysis was to say this, I don't call this function, or code not reachable, that kind of thing. So that will be rolling out soon. And more things like that, like the deep dive, like a little agentic framework doing this, or something like more replacing that kind of manual work that takes forever with some AI piece that does something really useful and addressing a direct pain point. So so as a large, this may not happen with 10 people, but if you have like thousands of developers working on stuff, like being interrupted by product security to go address some CVE that doesn't even turn out to be a problem for your product is painful. And then the tracking of all of that and so on. So being able to use Vex files and generate them and ingest them and all of that good stuff, it's all right there for Trustify, right? Like that's what it does. So that's really helpful. And that's it's already open source, but the product treatment is coming this week. So there's that. And there'll be more things like along those lines, more stuff in compliance to say, like, did you map that? The compliance struggle is always, it's vague, and then you have to map it to an actual control, and then you have to prove that control or provide evidence that that control happened. So and this is true in whatever framework you're following. So there's part of that too, and that's not as far along as the exploit intelligence stuff. So just letting you know, like you'll see all of this coming, but
Yeah,
yeah, it's good.
yeah,
There's also, I find lots of stuff going on in Asia as well. Like just an adherence to, like, oh, this regulation is coming, we need to do this, and we need to talk. Even if it's a long conversation, they're definitely talking about it in a way that I'm not seeing in the States right now. I am seeing it in Canada. I'm up in Toronto, so like I do see it up here a bit. So, but yeah, it's just the times we live in. So it's okay. It's good to know DORA. It's good to know CRAs, digital sovereignty. We have to do it. So
Yeah, and I think that's useful. Yeah, we ourselves also have similar sort of features built on top of what we've been doing with GUAC and similar around things like exploit intelligence and that sort of stuff. Um, yeah, I think that's definitely a big one, especially I think one of the things that has been coming up, which I think is something that as a this is more just sort of like a general supply chain thing more than necessarily purely Trustify or GUAC. But one of the things that has come up is like there is a future, an agentic future that like code looks a lot less like I'm uh using this library. You know what I mean? It's a lot of it is like I'm using this code path more so than this library or that library. Especially given that a lot of these new packaging tools are getting even better at saying I'm not even including your entire package. I'm including just elements of that code that are that your code needs. And it makes it difficult to be able to answer the question of exploitability because maybe the code, like the vulnerable code doesn't even exist anymore, or you only have the vulnerable code. So there's a lot of things that I think are kind of coming out of that and kind of makes a lot of this an interesting challenge.
It's good. It's good to have challenges. Glass
Yeah,
is half.
yeah,
Always. Yeah, so that's kind of what's going on now. All right. Anything else you guys want to add in there? What keeps you up at night? Hang on. Do you normally you don't review any of your the recent pull requests or anything like that? I was just wondering, like, do you have a okay?
yeah. So like this meeting, we tend to like unless there's like a big like hey, just so you know, I've had this PR open for a while. Can somebody review it? That's and stuff like that, and then things like larger architectural things, stuff like that. So if there's also anything we could be doing more from again, we're the majority of us are devs. So if there's things more from like a uh and Ben's not here, but he's been helping out a little bit with like the marketing and community and communication side. Um, if there's things we could be doing more, also in how we can joint do, spread the good word of supply chain security. Tell definitely all ears.
I am interested in like I would like to do a better job of tracking conferences that are coming. So I will not be at the OWASP conference in Vienna in June, but there will be Red Hatters there. So I don't there are others like they're the big ones. There's RSA and Black Hat and da 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 da. But there are a bunch of others that are worth attending. I think I don't always have them on my radar. So um, yeah, so if anyone knows, even meetups, like if I have someone in the area who can go to a meetup or something, we'll go and they'll present and like have a nice time. So we're totally interested in that. It's good to get people out of their houses. Cool. All right, I'm gonna have to drop in a few minutes, um, but I will be back next meeting. You're stuck with me for a little while until someone puts another conflicting meeting in my schedule. So I'm gonna drop. Thank you so much. Talk to you
Yeah.
soon.
All right. Any other topics, things folks wanted to bring up?
I had added a few points to the agenda today. So
Oh,
one of
okay.
them
Sorry.
was there were a couple of issues related to implementing collectors for, say, Gradle packages, Maven packages, and the Golang modules. And they were created a long back, so around in the year 2022. So I just wanted to check whether all these issues are still in the project roadmap, because a lot of things have changed. And some of these, when we ingest the SBOM and we have a Maven dependency and we want to get the transitive dependencies and things like that, DepSdev takes care of that. So I just wanted to check whether these things are still relevant in the issues. I've added the
Um,
link.
yeah. The short answer is we don't know. I don't like a lot has moved on since then, and I think as you know, like we've pulled back a little bit from sort of new features on GUAC ourselves. Uh, I think most of those are probably not super relevant anymore. There might be a couple like I don't think we ever ended up creating like Gradle based ones and whatever. Um, but yeah.
Okay. So will we be closing them sometime soon? These issues?
I could take a look. Um, I could take a look sometime soon. Uh,
Okay. And there's one more discussion about deprecating Neo4j in
oh yeah,
Node.
that's already been done.
Yeah, so there's still some part of the code which is there. Will we be removing that as well?
Um, if somebody wants to put in the work, sure. It's I don't think it's a priority for us at this point.
Okay. So if you are open to deprecating it, probably I can raise a PR for it.
Yeah, yeah, definitely happy to obviously get, you know, uh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, there was this one PR, probably I'd raised it about 2 or 3 weeks back, and it's still there's one review which is needed for it to get merged.
Yeah, I'll take a look.
Yeah. So that one PR, but rest of it probably a lot of efforts have been put by the maintainers. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah, no, no, no problem. And